everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Ask Amy. Before I get started with Victoria's question today, I just wanted to mention that the Little School of Big Change is going to be reopening for enrollment April 23rd through the 26th. So in the past, it's been open for a week or so. It's going to be a little shorter this time, 4 days to get in, and it's going to start April 23rd. So I'll remind you as we do these, but I know a lot of people have been asking. The doors have been closed, so we can really focus on the students who are there for the past several months, but next month is your time. So if you want to see more about the things that I share when I answer these questions, and if you have a habit or an addiction or a compulsion, anxiety that you'd like to find some lasting freedom from, that's the place to be. That's the point of the school. That's what it's all about, and I'd love to have you. So if you have any questions about anything in the meantime, any questions about how the school works, feel free to email me, but also just kind of look out. I'm going to be doing a couple webinars that share more of what we share in the school, and also that kind of let you in behind the scenes. So I'm going to do like a screen share, I think, and show you what it actually looks like, share a sample lesson, things like that, so you can get a better feel for it. So just kind of stay tuned and join the wait list at the littleschoolofbigchange.com, because that's where you'll get some cool bonuses when the doors do open. And yeah, check things out, and if you have any questions in the meantime, let me know. So let's get to today's question. It is from Victoria, and Victoria says, I've been binge eating for about 5 years now. I'm 21. I've had periods of being clear for several months, feeling calm, but then I always relapse. I've seen all your videos on binge eating and habits and just finished your last book. I resonate with all that you say, and that's why it gives me hope. But what happens is that at night, after having a bad day, I usually feel super motivated. I'm even excited to get to the urge the next day so I can apply my knowledge. Then the next day comes, I get the urge, and I'm like, I hear you, I was waiting for you, and I'm not acting on it. But then the next second, there I am acting on it. I guess my question is, what if, even when I truly understand your approach, I keep binging? What advice can you give me? So it's a great question, Victoria. And I know a lot of people are in this situation, and I want to kind of flip things around a little bit. So just sort of bear with me for a minute here, because it's really, really important to kind of see this from a different angle. So what I hear in what you're saying, Victoria, and I get it because I've been there, and I know lots of people have been there, is it's like hard day. Your mind is tossing out all these ideas about what to do to make it better, like binge eating maybe, or just, what would feel good to just kind of detach and not think about all this stuff. And of course, that habit is the first thing your mind tosses out. So you're feeling that, but you don't want to do this, So we start thinking, no, I'm not going to do this. I know I've learned all this stuff. I have all this knowledge that I can apply, right? Like you say. So I know I don't have to do this. I know that's just my lower brain talking to me. I know that's just an urge, whatever that whole thing might sound like. And like you say, you go to bed, you're motivated. Okay, I know what's going to happen in the morning. I'm going to start thinking about this, but I'm not going to give in. And you do okay for a time, and then you find yourself in it. And, this cycle that you described, like this is exactly how it goes. And just see how this resonates with you. But I want to say this kind of more generally for everyone listening. This sort of cycle is exactly how it goes when we're relying primarily on willpower. When it's like, no, I know this. We're in our heads, right? Like I've learned this. This is coming from my lower brain. This is an urge. It'll come, it'll pass. We can recite it. You could probably teach a class on this, Victoria. I have no doubt that you understand this fully. So we get it. We're motivated. We know we don't have to act on it. We know we can let it pass. And we can do that for a while, but then, bam, it hits you. And then you're like, oh, again, why again? And so rather than thinking of this as an approach, and rather than telling yourself at night that in the morning you're going to apply all your knowledge, and you're going to do it a certain way, which again, all of this sort of feeds into this approach idea. Now, approach is just a word. I get it. And maybe I've even called it that, it's just a word. But there's something I really want you to see in this, about thinking of this whole thing, what we're going to do and how we're going to find freedom, as an approach that hurts us. Because when something is an approach, you have a very active role in this. You are in your head and you're applying things and you're approaching it in a certain way. I mean, and again, I don't want to harp on the word approach, but I can feel that's sort of almost how you're holding this in your mind and where you're coming from. The whole thing about an approach and how we're going to do it is that we're focused a little bit on what we're going to do. We're focused on the behaviors. We're focused on the action. Don't give in to the urge. Look at it this way. Remember that it's temporary. Remember that it's okay, and there's a certain mentalness to that. It's like we're doing that sort of with our head. There's an effort there. It's a little willpower-y. Now, willpower is wonderful. It's a wonderful tool to have. There's nothing wrong with willpower, and you might need to use it at times. But it's different to come primarily from that place where we're applying some kind of approach, very, very different than the flip side of that, which is seeing how this understanding works, like seeing what I share as not as an approach for what you're going to do, but seeing it as a simple understanding, a simple description of how our experience works. So if you could for a minute see this as if it's someone else, all the emotion and shame and liking and disliking and all of that goes out the window, or just at least goes off to the side for a minute. And we're just curious, like, at night, it doesn't occur to me to binge eat. At night, I'm thinking, oh, I got this. I know how it works. You're feeling a certain way, right? And you might have urges, you might not, but you're not binge eating at night. In the morning, or a little bit into the day, you have an urge and somehow you find yourself doing it. Like, what's going on there? So again, take yourself and your action and your approach and what you're going to do and just set that aside for a minute, Victoria, and just step back and get curious about this. Like, what's going on? Why is it that I'm not doing this at night in general, but then the next day after I try to not do it, I just fall into it? And again, when we kind of look at it from that angle, like, this is just a description of what human beings do, like how we come to experience things, how we experience, like, what is it that we're experiencing and what do we do with that? So when we can kind of see, like, okay, binge eating is what that's showing us. Any habit is showing us that we're not feeling well. There's some bit of discomfort. There's some thinking going on. It doesn't feel exactly like home. And from that place, we're doing all we can see to do, the thing that's most on our mind in that moment to do, to feel better, right? Totally logical. Makes perfect sense. So it starts to shift this, Victoria, from what am I doing wrong and how do I approach this, to, in that moment, when I binge eat, when I find myself giving into an urge, as you say, or binge eating, what's going on for me? Well, you aren't feeling well. Your mind tosses out, do this. And that, from the thinking you have going on, that looks like the thing to do. So do you see how that starts to kind of shift things? It starts to kind of take you, again, away from the driver. Very much in your head, like that's your conceptual mind wanting to figure all this out, and it puts your mind to sleep a little bit, or tells your mind, you go rest, I don't need you right now, I'm going to be here, I'm going to let this feeling and this emotion and these urges and all this kind of move through me, and I'm just going to see there's a very simple cause and effect going on. When I notice a thought and I'm feeling okay and it might be telling me to binge eat, but I know I don't want to do that, it just goes away. It just does what it does. It comes up, it's brought to life, it floats away. But there are other times when I get tangled up in it and I end up doing what my mind's telling me to do. And what's up with that? Like, what's going on there, you know? And all it is really is like we're saying, it's really simple. I can say it a million different ways, but it's very simple, is, you know, in that, from that thinking, from all the thinking that's going on, the pull to quiet our mind is just strong. That's it. The pull to find peace and quiet our mind is strong. And when we have a habit, that's usually the first idea or the most compelling idea that pops into our heads. Do this. And it'll even be like, you know, you want this food looks really good, or this drink looks really good, or the casino looks really nice, or whatever the habit is. You know, it's like, there's just this aura around it, and it's just such a pull to it. And it's because we've just kind of conditioned ourselves that this thing makes me feel better for a minute. It quiets my mind. So the more you can begin to look away from the approach, look away from applying what you know. Maybe that means not having this whole motivational pep talk game plan before bed every night. I don't know, but maybe that'll help to kind of just leave that aside and instead just be bigger than your experience. Lean back into you who's always at home base, who's always deeply at peace, who can experience all variety of stuff. This energy that moves through us, it looks so varied and so different and so meaningful, but it's essentially all the same. It's all this one energy in different costumes. So lean into the you that's able to kind of just witness and be with whatever's moving through you. Like seeing that we only do what makes sense to us, but when there's a bit of a space there and we're not busy in our heads trying to apply and approach things, that space grows. So when there's nothing to do, when you don't need to remember an approach or apply anything, you're naturally a little quieter inside, right? There's like a space there. And then the stuff that comes up, it just starts to look different. The urges or the thoughts about food and how wonderful this would be and all this kind of, or how horrible it would be and all that kind of thinking, it becomes a little more two-dimensional in a sense. It's less of this gigantic movie that just looks like real life happening to you. And it's more of like, oh, I'm here and I'm thinking the same old stuff I always think, pretty boring, but I don't need to be one with that so much, you know, like there's a distance and a change. And that's what gives us that ability that I write about, it of being able to have a bit of a pause. Again, we don't have to make this pause happen. The pause comes naturally as we lean back and see that we are not our experience. We don't have to do or manage anything because you know how to not binge eat. It's not a matter of finding the right things to do and doing them. It's not a matter of having the right knowledge or learning the right facts or the right approach. It's a matter of forgetting a lot of what our mind is telling us, forgetting a lot of what we've sort of learned over time, and remembering that we're okay right now, that we can feel stuff and it does move through us, and just sort of slowing down rather than mustering up all this motivation and speeding up and moving into something. So that feels, I hope you're feeling it, Victoria, that feels very different than the feeling of your question. So that's really helpful. It's really huge for you to see. Oh, there's a different feeling here. And it might feel kind of subtle and you know, a little vague, but it's everything. It truly is everything, because when we're more relaxed and we're not approaching it with our mind first and pouncing and doing all the right things, you see things and you have this natural ability to pause and just be with your experience that maybe you haven't felt very much lately because you've been kind of more living in the mental place and thinking about it so much. So play with that, experiment with it, and see how things feel and how it feels different to you. And let me know how it goes. Let us know, like, what, you know, I would love to report back on that. And I'd love to talk with you more about, like, oh, how does it look from that place? Because that's where things start to unravel and that freedom starts to kind of take hold when we see that we are free already. We can be free. We're just sort of stepping into the lion's den of all of our thinking. It really is that simple and that profound. And I'm not going to say it's easy, because we have this habit of being so much in our heads, but it's very, very simple. So I hope that's helpful for you, Victoria. I hope it's helpful for others who have habits. And again, it's not just a behavioral habit. I mean, this is true if you get, and I know many of you do, because I get lots of questions from you guys, which I love, like gripped with, regret or guilt or worry or fear or anxiety. And it's all the same thing. If we can start to see it in this way, rather than trying to approach it as a problem we need to put out, and instead taking a step back and just seeing it as an example of how life works and getting more curious from that place, the stuff starts to fall away. It's really incredible, and it really does. So play with that, see how that goes for you. And if you guys listening have questions, if this brings up anything for you, or you have any questions about anything, obviously I'm here every Monday. So send them to AskAmy at thelittleschoolofbigchange.com. Jump on the wait list, because again, we're opening April 23rd. And thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you next Monday.